Hi, welcome to episode 56 of the Chess Files. The answers are out there. I'm James Eade of the Eade Foundation. The Eade Foundation is about building communities through chess. And we're all over the world, kinda, and we think it's chess without borders. We don't care what country you're from, what language you speak. If you play chess, you're part of a chess community. Now, this episode is dedicated to finding out what makes an author write a book and what book is it that we're going to talk about this week? That's the question. And, I was a pretty good attacker in my day when I was a chess player. And, I used to fight with grandmasters kind of regularly. But, I wasn't good enough to become one. So I wanted to learn, how could I be a better attacker? So my guest today, Cyrus, please come on and join me. There you go, Cyrus.
Hey Jim, how are you?
I'm doing well. And
I'm impressed by the photo, by the way, in the introduction, where like you were brave enough to show the long-haired nerd 70s nerd photos. I'm not that brave. Okay.
yeah,
I hide those. I pay money to people if they threaten to expose those. But you proudly, here you go. That's the one, the 70s chess nerd, long-haired chess nerd photo.
yeah.
I like it, man. I like it.
Thank you so much. Because this one's like a little bit more current, but it's doesn't have the same. I think like it takes me back to the 70s. Yeah.
Well, we're like father knows best. Look at my hair, okay? Like a Marine came to my house the other day, where he said, "Oh, there was some mix-up." Okay, and he came to my house. He said, "Oh, your son is joining the Marines, and you're signing for it." And I said, "No, my son is 30 and works for Sony. No Marine Corps for him." And he said, "Well, you look like you're in the Marines." I just cut my hair short because I'm too lazy to get haircuts. So I cut it super short and then just let it grow long.
Yeah. It's like, when the hair starts to come over the ear, that's when I know I have to get a haircut.
I want baldness. Like I crave baldness. I hate hair. It's like every 2 months, 15, 20 minutes of my life is gone for a haircut that I can't have back,
I know this movie Stripes, and they all come out after being shaved, and they're all going like this. That's me every day now.
Right. Involuntary almost,
Yeah. So Cyrus, I wanted to ask you on to talk about your new book, because it's a fascinating book to me. Would you hold it up to the screen for
sure.
me?
However I hold it up, I'm going to watch this, okay?
There you go. The greatest attacker in chess.
Yeah. Rashid Nijmedov. No, actually, they meant me, the greatest attacker.
You don't mix me I am without an ego.
Actually, you know what? It's really not easy to go through life when you're an IM who attacks like at an 1100 level. I am the world's worst attacker. And so I'm the perfect guy to write this book because I need to learn,
Yeah.
So it was actually the most fun I had writing a book. I think of all the books I've ever written, I think this one was the most fun. And I was really kind of shocked. I didn't know, like I hadn't studied him deeply. I just kind of thought, I thought like the two Nijmedov books, I went online and I forgot what they were asking for them. I thought, I'd like to get some books on Nijmedov, and I looked, $400 for each book for the two books that are, like, what? Are you crazy? You know how the algorithm goes nuts when a book is out of print, and I'm not paying $400 for your Nijmedov books. And so that was when I actually decided I'd like to write a book on him.
Yeah.
But I saw that Agadmator, Antonio Radic, the YouTuber. All my students kept telling me about Nijmedov because Radic kept doing videos on Nijmedov games, and I had only the vaguest understanding of Nezhmednov. I knew he was getting more and more popular only from posts on Facebook.
Right.
Like he was being mentioned more and more. And so I looked at his games and I went like, what the hell? It was like finding a new batch of like a hidden batch of tall games that you'd never seen. And not old tall, old semi-strategic tall. I'm talking about 1957 to 1960 tall,
Right.
like crazy, bat guana crazy tall, like where he just gives up anything for the initiative, right, or attack.
Yeah.
I mean, and so I thought this is cool, and I think he had an even score against world champions, and he was an IM, right?
Yeah.
So
And
this
did he
guy
win
he,
a Soviet championship or something like that? Did he
he
win?
won the Russian championship 5 times,
Okay.
like the or was it the Russian championship or Soviet championship? I don't know. It's
Yeah.
a bunch of letters. I forgot what it is. I can look it up in the intro, but I'm too lazy. But
Yeah.
anyway,
I
he
don't have
won
the
it like
attention span.
like a record 5 times, right? Like I mean, you if you're gonna guess, oh, it's Botvinnik or Smyslov or Tal or Spassky. No, Nezhmednov, won it
And
more times
that
than any
the
other.
people he was playing against were not your average A player. They were
Oh
just
my God, no! No, it was just impossible to get a title in his day. I think that it was just literally impossible. I mentioned in the introduction that during this period of time, I forgot how many years, but I think only a period of like 3 or 4 years. Only 3 people became GMs, and one was like Spassky, one was Tall, and one was I forgot someone like that,
right.
like crazy strong, like a Geller or something. Yeah, I don't know the names, but I know Spassky was one, and I know Tall was one. It's in the introduction, but
Yeah.
I don't actually pay attention to the stuff I write, so I don't remember. So
Yeah. Wait till you have to do a second edition, then you have to read
yeah,
the
yeah.
notes. Oh my goodness, that.
I wished I'll have wished I did my homework.
Hey, I got you a picture of me when I was an attacker.
Go for it. Oh my God,
The white
that is
tape on the black
badass.
glasses.
Okay, there okay, I know two things already. One, there's no way you got a date in that time period. And two, you had one of those pocket protector things,
I still had IBM cards that I could write notes on
There is
into my
no
notebook.
way. You were like me. I mean, like completely dateless nerd. I'm positive of it. I don't believe you if you tell me you had a girlfriend at that period.
I had a lot of girls, but that I went out with that were there to talk to me about their boyfriends.
Oh yeah. I had those too. I call them not girlfriends,
Yeah,
where they're your friends, but they're not your girlfriend.
right. Yeah.
I had tons of those. I had tons of not girlfriends. Actual girlfriends, very few. It was tumbleweeds.
Oh, yeah,
Like
and what like who wouldn't want when you're in high school? Who wouldn't you want to go out with a guy like that? Huh?
yeah. It would be tempting, man. It would
Yeah.
be tempting.
Uh,
I see that we live similar lives. You know.
well, were you part of the Fisher boom, Cyrus?
No, I was before that. I was
Before
before, but I played chess since '68. But
68. Yeah, I
but
was
I
72.
was a big Fisher fan, like early, and
Yeah.
I still remember the Fisher match. My father and I would go over the games of the match from the newspaper. Uh, some of you may know this, but there was no internet in like 1972 during the match. We're so spoiled now. Like everything is like instantly at our fingertips. Like
Absolutely.
I want to know the weather in Mongolia this day in 1945. Boom, there it is. Like what? you know, you
Yeah,
could
we
get
had to
this
wait for Robert
million
Burns' column
information.
in the New York Times to come out before we saw the game score.
Right, right,
You
and
know,
and I remember when Spassky played the Breyer variation of the Lopez, and he played Knight B8. My father, like immediately deduced that Spassky was afraid because he was retreating already for no reason. And even though I was like during the match, I was not quite 12 yet. I knew that was dumb. I sensed it was dumb, but I said, "But Dad, a world champion is retreating for no reason. There has to be a reason for the retreat, doesn't there?" No, he's just scared.
There.
That's the
That's the only explanation. Yes, because go forward. That's the Faulkner kind of spirit that we thought was what made a man, Hemingway rather, that what made a man was you charge into danger, you don't retreat.
That's right. Big game
Yeah.
hunting, was
Yeah.
a good thing then.
Yeah.
Now you get all these anger emojis for the big game hunters right there. We hate you. We unfriend you.
I started playing because of Fisher in '72 because of that match. Following it
Okay.
on Shelby Lyman's TV show. Can you
Oh,
believe
I
it?
love that show. I
Wasn't
watched
that
it
amazing?
religiously. Yeah, I watched Shelby. Yeah.
Yeah. And so shout out to Shelby wherever you are. And also, the thing about that, getting into chess at that age, we had to wait for an informant to come out before we could
Right.
be
Right.
booked up. Every
And
few months, a book would come
And
out.
informants were like, they were like mazes, analytical mazes, like, oh, a Hubner game,
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
like
Sub
reams of
variation and sub
analysis,
variation.
and I don't have chess base. I can't even, I don't know how to go back to the main line, so.
Yeah, I was publishing for a while, and I wanted to get into ebook publishing, and I gave the programmer a Hubner game to be able to represent it on screen, and his software kept blowing up.
Right. It's
I
just,
should have stuck with Karpov games.
Hubner is the ultimate academic where like his games, like only 5 people in the world understand them. The rest just scratch their heads and go, "What?"
Yeah, yeah, and he's a papyrist, and he told me once that um, you know I'm the top 3 papyrists in the world, but the world only needs 2. Yeah, he was a pleasure to get to know. I had him out in 1995 for
Oh,
the
that's cool.
Pan
That's
Pacific
cool
tournament.
that you know him. Yeah.
Well, it was also my privilege to host him at my house and to find a hotel for him that was not
Wow. Wow.
downtown. So we drove in every day to
Hmm.
the tournament, and it was like one of those special. Just I had to have him because he was one of the best players in the West when the Soviets dominated
Mhm.
chess,
Right.
and he was also one of those people that had this nervous tendency towards nerves
Right. Right.
and
I
and
remember.
that's why he couldn't stay in the downtown hotel. There's too much noise for him. So I found a place for him. But it was like somebody I could relate to,
Huh.
just had that, like had a real talent, an incredible talent, but was just, that was one thing that kept him from the very top. But he still competed
Well,
at such a high level.
I mean, look, if you're ranked in the top 10 in the world and have a PhD, you're pretty smart, okay?
Yeah.
Like you're it's one or the other, okay? You don't get to do both, but he did both, okay? Like I mean,
And one of
that's
the
crazy.
gifts
I mean,
getting to know him, one of the gifts was, he looked at my bookshelves and he said, I'm taking you book shopping. This is what you need. You need to buy this. And he said, no, not that translation, this translation.
hmm, wow.
He was an amazing person to get to know. It was really
Yeah, I mean, a guy like that has to have an IQ that's through the ceiling. I mean, way higher than my 80 IQ. I know that. Okay.
So speaking of attacking IQs, where would you put your subject of your latest book? And is it out? Is it published? Because I just got it corrected that I said something was published and it wasn't yet published.
Well, it's not out in the US, but it's out in Europe, which they
Okay.
always do. I mean, it always happens. Now, do you mean for the reader? Like what target range for the reader?
Well, yeah, that's a great question. It wasn't the one I asked, but that's a better one.
Okay. It's really for I think anyone who's 1700 to world champion can read it, right? I mean, it's like, you're like, I'm not the guy you buy the book for. It's the games themselves, right? And basically, I tried to make it like a tactics trainer, or like an attacking planning trainer, where I used a lot of excerpts. I didn't do all full games, and just I wanted it to be like a tactical exercise book as well as a book on Nizhmedinov. Um, it, the strange thing is, how the hell can a guy that strong be an IM? Like, ridiculous. Like, where he was, there's at least 2 wins in the book against Spassky. He a billion wins against Tal. Tal played him the worst possible way. I'm Mikhail Tal. Nobody can match me tactically. No, there's one guy.
Yeah.
Don't play that way against him.
Yeah,
He
it's so interesting, but partly was to get out of the Soviet Union in order to get a norm, you have to have multiple federations, and so like a
Right.
Russian championship would only be
There were
Russians.
no norm tournaments in the Soviet Union at the time, and he got his IM title with one tournament win. He won a GM tournament in I think Romania, Bucharest, or something
A
in the
country you could go to, right?
early '50s or something. And you know, uh, I remember he won this incredible game against. I guess he was posthumously changed to GM. Then I am Pauli, but he won this monster attacking game against him in that one. That's in the book. That's one of the best games in the book.
Yeah, that he's pretty famous for that game. I think that's one of the games that gets published a lot, or is that just one?
Yeah, there's one where he sacrifices his queen for 2 pieces. Just no compensation except 2 pieces and piece activity.
Right.
And the guy just could not handle it. He's one of the greatest initiative players of all time. And I think there's like about 100 and, well, it's about 117 games. Yeah, like in that range, I think. Yeah. But yeah, 117 games. And I don't remember a single game. I may be wrong, but I don't remember a single game where he defended against a threat. I mean, think about that. I'm talking about if there was a mate in one, he'd defend it. But I mean, if there was like a pawn, you can forget it. He's not going to defend that. Okay.
Go
All
ahead,
these,
take it, please.
and how, there's in chess, there's static values and dynamic values. Okay. Like
Right.
strategists like me, we tend to weight static advantages more, like pawn structure. I have the bishop pair, stuff that you can bank, money in the bank, money for my
More
retirement.
permanent advantages.
Pardon
That's
me?
what more permanent advantages. Like that's
Yeah,
what Mary Adams.
money in the bank, but like dynamic advantages are initiative, attack, tactical possibilities, like
King safety.
king safety, stuff like that. And those are ephemeral, like they're very transient. Like,
Yeah.
like you screw, like a guy like me, if I sacrifice a pawn for the initiative, there's about a 98% chance I'm going to play H3 and A3 at some point, losing 2 tempi. Okay. Like I'm worried about a potential pin.
Yes.
Don't develop.
Might happen.
So guys like me, like we're so wired to structure and safety that it's very hard to switch over.
Well,
The only really nice attacks I've ever played in my life are in must-win situations. I remember I had to beat Igor Ivanov one game.
great player.
Yeah, he's a candidate for greatest IM of all time, but I think he's number 2 behind Nizhmedinov. He wasn't as strong as Nizhmedinov.
No, I would agree, but who am I to say? But
well, no, wait, I'm number 1. He's number 3. No, I'm way down there. Anyway,
you're just going to get 50 comments from IMs everywhere.
But I remember like I had to beat Akobian like
Another
in the
great
final
player.
round of the state championship, like, like gulp a GM, and like I have to beat the GM, and he's playing for a draw, like he wants a draw
Right?
to seal clear first, and I went after him, but the only times I can attack is when I have nothing to lose, where I just go for it. Another time was I attacked like a maniac, was in a game against Jay Whitehead, who was like 2,600 in 1987. That's a monster rating then with the
Yes.
inflation, I mean.
Yeah, no World
But
Junior. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, I sacrificed like two exchanges completely unsoundly and went after his king, and won in time pressure, because I had to win the National Open then. And
Right.
we just bought a house which we couldn't afford, so I said, "Oh, no problem. I'll just win the National Open. Then everything will be fine." That was my plan.
Well, the National Open, my goal was to get behind the ropes twice. It was like, you could do it once.
Right. Twice means you're having a really good tournament.
Right. And I was playing Walter Brown. I can remember this clearly because you're speaking about the initiative. And I was white and he was playing a Sicilian. So I sacked a pawn for the initiative because the position was static, and I knew he was going to beat me if I didn't have the initiative.
Right.
I sacked the pawn, and 5 moves later, the position was equal, except he had an extra pawn. I had no initiative. So I threw another one at him. And 5 moves later, I had no initiative, and he had 2 pawns. So, this initiative thing, maybe it's not for me. Maybe you need to be in the Schmedmuff. There's somebody that's really an attacker, because in my youth, I thought I was an attacker. And then the only games I understood were like Karpovs or Isarowans, where people were.
No, I did not ever have that illusion. I never had that illusion. Like the first guy I was crazy about was Capablanca. I want to play like that. And then I saw Ulf Andersson's games in the early 80s. I want to play like that. I played his repertoire, like get queens off as quickly as possible.
Right.
Then I can't hang a queen unless I promote to a new queen and then hang that one. So.
No, I made that transition because I think it was delusional on my part when I was young, thinking that I was a great attacker.
Oh no, I was like a strange kid. Like I was really good in quiet positions and endgames, and hopeless in complications, and like anything with. As soon as queens went
You
off
were
the
a
board,
strange kid.
well, okay, I could match you, strange to strange. I promise I was. I don't think you had a higher strangeness rating than me, but
Okay.
but no, I played like an old man when I was like 9. I never went through that. Let's play the Evans Gambit and let's play King's Gambit. I always consider them, like con artists and people who don't want to work for a living, like you're lazy. You just want to cheapo your opponent. You don't want to build your position,
That's what I said about Sicilian players. The worst that can happen to you is you be on the wrong side of a diagram with white to play and win. That was, you'd be a French player, what suffering is.
Yes, I was like the only kid in the history of the world that played French at like age 9. Like I was like what kid is good in closed positions? I was.
Yes.
I was really good in closed positions, but horrible the minute the game opened up, which usually kids are geniuses in open positions. I was hopeless. Like, why? I would play H3 and A3 is why in open positions when I should have been going after the king.
Right. Yeah, and if you put your bishop on c4, it was like foreign to me. It was like, it was like, you're attacking it. So I could play d5.
Well, bishops on c4 are fine if you're playing Count Isward or someone, but if you're playing a normal player, like, bishop c4, e6, I'm sorry, d5 is next, you lose a tempo.
Exactly.
Oh.
But, and like I say, I started playing in 72 when I was 15. So you starting in 68 at 9, we're about the same age. And, the idea of starting at 15 now is just a foreign concept.
Oh, forget it. You're like an old man. You should be a GM now by 15, or else you're done. You're washed up.
You got 12-year-olds now going,
I know,
okay,
I know. It's incredible, but it's a different world. Like we would have been like our minds would have been very different, like if we had databases and
right.
engines. And no, I mean, like I was in this backwater called Montreal. You may not have heard of that city, Montreal, but
It's around
this
Quebec someplace.
backwater. Yeah, but I remember the backwater part was not Montreal, but the fact that I lived in the bloody suburbs and I had to first walk a mile and a half, take a bus, 45
It was
minutes.
snowing. Don't forget, it was snowing
It
when you were.
was snowing. It was. Even in summer. Anyway. And then I had to take a freaking metro, and then I had to walk to the freaking Alcan Chess Club in the En Passant Cafe, and it was like a bloody ordeal, And then like my parents like wanted to disown me because I would play in these blitz tournaments on Friday night, which ended around like midnight or 12:30.
Yeah.
And the metro closed down, and the buses closed down.
Yeah.
So there was no way I could get home. It might have been 1 o'clock, like after 1, the
And you're
buses
calling
shut
your
down.
folks? Yeah.
No, they would just know the time, and there was no such thing as a cell phone then, and I don't
Right.
think the club had a payphone even. You know,
They did
we
at
lived
the
in
Capablanca Club, but the Alicante
They
Club.
would send
Still
my
like
carrier pigeon, No,
smoke
but they would
signals.
just show up at 1 o'clock and they would like glare at me. I remember
Right.
whichever parent picked me up, they'd glare at me. Can't you just be a normal kid and play baseball during the
Yeah.
daytime? Like, you
But
might get a date then too. Like
that does take me back. My dad took me to one tournament.
oh,
One.
that's it. Oh my God, my parents they were like my indentured servants. They would shuffle me all over the place, and even on a weekend tournament, like they drop me in the morning. It's a long ride. I mean, it was like it took, even by car, it took a half hour to get to the tournament, find parking, and
Yeah.
but they would drop me in the morning, go home, come back, after the round, and these tournaments, like second round starts at 6, 40 moves in 2.5 hours, and 20 moves per hour after that.
Yeah.
So it's like they're picking me up again super late.
Yeah. And none of this increments and sudden death kind of stuff. Armageddon type thing. We had to play until the game was over.
Right. Well, there were adjournments in club matches, but not in
Oh, okay.
tournaments. Right.
Right.
Yeah, but my dad got so sick of it, he started playing in tournaments with me, but he stopped the instant I could beat him, though. The instant I got better, that was it. I'm too busy for chess. Sorry.
But what he did do was, there was a math professor at college he taught at, and he played at the college chess club, and he would come by and pick me up and drop me off.
Oh, okay.
My dad passed me on to somebody who would.
Okay.
take
That's
turns
a
in my
good
chess
system.
career.
That's a good system.
Yeah. And so he could and it wasn't until I was much older and I found out that he actually had played correspondence chess in the 50s. So
Oh, really?
my dad had played, but once I got good, it was like, or not good like Bobby Fischer, but good enough to beat him. It was
Right.
all
Beat dad good. Like that's the ultimate goal, right?
right.
My father, I think, was like about an 1800 player, like in
Wow.
that range, I mean, like meaning 2000 today, right?
Right.
Because but he was a pretty good player. I mean, my father was pretty good, and he never
Was he a
studied,
positional player, or
Hmm?
was he attacking or positional?
Oh my God, no. He was a positional player, and the reason I actually developed my style was because he was an unbelievable cheat. Okay, in that when we played, he it anytime I hit him with a combination, he would go, "Oh, sorry," and take back the move. Okay, he was like a blatant cheat when we played. Okay, he would always just take back his move. So I realized after a while, tactics is worthless because he just takes back the move. But if I beat him in a creeping, slow, strategic style, there's nothing to take back. And I swear to God, that's why I have the style I do. It, it
That's
was
so
it was like
interesting.
it was like a outwit the cheating dad style. So
Well, my dad, when I checked him, he would sometimes check me back, and I would say that's illegal, and he would say, "Oh, it's tricky." So the cheating dad syndrome that we have in common. But that explanation for how you could be a 9-year-old positional player, that makes a lot of sense.
well, it was weird because I was getting more and more angry because he kept taking back moves, and I kind of knew that was wrong, like to do that, like. But he said because it's not a tournament game, you could take back moves, like. Well, really?
Oh, right. Yeah.
But see, I was the better tactician, and he was like the better positional player at the time. And so I decided the tactics just don't work against him because he keeps taking back. Anytime he falls for a trap, he just takes it back. So I have to switch to strategic play. So I started, I studied Capablanca, Nimzovich, Petrosian, the,
And that in common. My system was the first book my dad brought home from the bookstore. Cost him 25 cents at a used bookstore.
oh, wow. Yeah. Unfortunately, like the problem with my system and studying, players like Nimzovich and Reddy is, you expend all your energy getting your queen to A1 while your king is mated on the other side on H1. So it's like
It's a brilliant book.
like I can't tell you how many times I got my queen to A1 just as my king is mated, on the other side. So it's like they overstress the strategic factors, the old guys. Like if someone told me, someone asked me right now, my son is just starting, or my daughter is just starting, should she study my system? I would say burn the book. Do not read my system. Okay. I think that book was good at the time. It was groundbreaking at the time.
Yes.
But for today's chess, it is hopelessly out of date.
It
does not age well. It does not age well.
His passion for the game came out through the pages to me. That was what I remember. It's like a passed pawn is a criminal. It should be put under lock and key.
Yeah,
blockade. So they did make all these mistakes that you're talking about.
Right.
Overstressing the wrong things, or not the wrong things, but they were just stressed them too much. And so, but I did learn, like one time I can remember the only good move of my opponent's white squared bishop was to pin my knight on G4. And so I played H3 before he could play it. And I thought, prophylactics. Oh, I've made it. But now we're playing A3 and H3 too often. And, so yeah.
The main impression I got from Nimzovich was that he was kind of like an egomaniac for like, Herr Svensson was one of the best players in Denmark, and yet I brilliantly beat him. Like, dude, come on, stop tooting your horn.
He was shameless. But he must have been faced with so much negativity because his principles were just, guys like Capablanca, for example, would say those moves are ugly.
Well, Capablanca and Alekin just hammered Nimzovich. I mean, he looked artificial next to them. Capablanca was just like
effortless.
Well, it was fluid, he was like this snake that moved through the position, Right. And Alekin just came down on him like a bloody hammer, like, oh yeah, great, get your queen to H1, I'll mate you over here, Alekin just overpowered him with superior calculation, superior feel for tactics, superior feel for initiative,
absorbed all of those principles that Nimzovich was writing about, but he went beyond them, and you're right, calculation was the essence of that guy.
Yeah, I mean, he was not in their league. He would have had a 0% chance in a match against either one.
I agree.
Like a 0%. I mean, like Capablanca could have had the bubonic plague and still beaten him, and so could Alekin. I mean, Alekin could have had half a bottle of vodka right before the game. Yes. It still wins the game.
Yes. So that brings us back to. So do you think not only is it Nesmedov's, or say it correctly for me?
Nizhmedinov.
Nizhmedinov. And he had a sense of initiative. But do you think
Oh my God, that's the understatement of the century. I mean, he took initiative as like a religion or something. It was like he would give away a pawn just to give a spike check or something. You know, like I mean, anytime he was in control, that was it. He would give away everything. He would just routinely give away two pawns in an opening just for fishing chances, and as long as it was complicated, like he always got the initiative. Like always, there was nobody that could take the initiative from him. I mean, not even the world champions could seize initiative from him. Like he was just Tall couldn't do it. Spassky couldn't do it. They would beat him strategically. His strategic play was like well below theirs.
Right.
That's the only reason he didn't dominate them. If they all played like to complicate against them, he would have beaten them, the vast majority.
Well, how did he do against Petrosian? Do you know?
Petrosian was not a good guy for him, and I think neither was Cyrus. If Petrosian had a tricky style for him,
right.
like because Petrosian liked to be attacked,
right?
And Petrosian was really good at taking stuff and hanging on to it and not getting mated. So Petrosian was kind of like his kryptonite antimatter guy, but like that style I'm saying, but very few people actually can play like Petrosian. Most people,
Yeah. I emulated Petrosian. I just couldn't play like him.
Yeah. I mean, unfortunately, I do play like Petrosian, but like a really shitty Petrosian. Can I say that on here? Are there 6-year-olds watching? I apologize.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Although they know that word now.
Yes, of course they do.
Just bleep it out.
Yeah. But, I was going to ask you, the initiative unquestioned. What do you think of his powers of calculation? Did you make any judgment on that while you were doing
his calculation? Was unbelievable. It was unreal. He was like a super tall in that he was like far more extreme than tall in that he was an incredible attacker, incredible calculator, and incredible with the initiative, and just every dynamic factor, he was like off the scales. But he had suicidal tendencies in that he dull positions he was hopeless because he would sacrifice something
just to make it interesting.
Ridiculous attempt to take an initiative in a exchange Slav position, would be
right.
horrible for him,
But he exchanged French against them.
Yeah. Well, he would. It wouldn't matter. He would find a way to muck it up. But I mean, there are some positions that are really difficult to get anything going.
All right.
But he did dumb things. Okay, like he would play the stodgy Steinitz variation of the Roy Lopez with black. Why? Why the hell aren't you playing a Sicilian? Like, why aren't you playing like a Nador for a dragon? Oh my God, he would have been a monster on the black side of a dragon, especially before computers, where they worked out everything. But
right.
He didn't play. His openings didn't match. He would often play anti-Sicilian with white. Really, the greatest attacker maybe of all time playing anti-Sicilian? You don't want to play d4 and get a sharper position, Right. The game against Paoli was a open Sicilian, like he beat Tall in a few open Sicilians, but he played both. But, why are you playing dull stuff? He was nervous in the opening because he didn't study as much as he should have. He was just a pure natural. He was really the Queen's Gambit guy. I mean, he was Beth Harmon. He grew up in an orphanage, and the way he discovered chess was more dramatic than Mr. Scheibel, the janitor teaching chess. What happened was he found a page of a chess magazine on the ground, and he picked it up, and it was it was not in his language. I think he spoke like Tartar, if that's a language, I don't know, but it was in Russian.
Yeah.
And he was just mesmerized by the board, and he was obsessed with learning, and he did everything he could from that point on to learn about chess. And he was like instantly better than everyone. Like, He was one of the greatest natural talents of all time. Okay, he
This is
was.
interesting. So would you think that it's a visualization? Like that was the attraction?
Yeah,
Visualize,
his powers of visualization were like again off the charts. I mean, compared to
really
most people, he could calculate deep lines, and he saw tactics way in the future into these lines. It's just he's a great guy to study for guys like me, okay, who play H3 and A3 and move our queens to A1. You know, those guys would benefit the most from study. In fact, I have my students like study sharp players who tend to be too stodgy and underestimate initiative and basically all the stuff I do, you know, like,
Mhm.
but you know, the student that you know like backs off instantly if you make a threat, they immediately defend it rather than look for a counterattack. Those guys need to study Tal. They need to study Nizhmedinov and other, you know, like I remember I got stronger by studying Nigel Short's games. I
Interesting.
remember in the 1990s, I remember I had a jump when I studied his games because he has an incredible feel for the initiative. And he would play stodgy openings like Queen's Gambit declined with black, but somehow he'd get the initiative, you know?
That's
And
the first time I've ever heard anyone say that, and that's really interesting. I'm going to go back and look at some games.
yeah,
But
his in his prime, he was just a monster with the initiative. I don't think even in the Kasparov match, Kasparov had trouble taking the initiative from him. You know, I mean, he outplayed him strategically more than anything in that match. You know,
really fascinating.
he I and one game he just like won on time in an equal position. I think that was the first game of the match, which was like a gift, you know. I mean,
Yeah,
Kasparov was a stronger player, but he wasn't as strong as the score would indicate. I mean, Short was a really great player in the early 90s. He was really, you know, he could have been world. I mean, he had a shot at being world champion if
yeah,
he would have been world champion if Karpov and Kasparov had died in the crib of crib death, he might have been world champion, you know.
yeah.
So,
But there's of that era that the player that I really admired was Sarawan, and
oh my
not
God,
guessing,
Sarawan.
but he had this sense of like if you offered him a pawn, he would take it and he would keep it. But he did have that sense of initiative as well. He had kind of this balance.
Sarawan was like a revelation when I met him. We were both child prodigies. He was like we were both like 14 or 15 when I met him, and he was about 2450, and I was close behind at 1750. Okay, so we're both prodigies. Okay,
Yeah,
but oh
you
my
were an up
God,
and
I
comer
remember.
right from
I
the
remember
beginning.
it was the Canadian Open in New Brunswick. Maybe I was like 15 or 16 even then. I can't remember. The years all merge. I didn't even do drugs in the years merge. This isn't fair. I didn't have the fun of the drugs, and yet my brain is as if I used drugs. You know. Anyway, I saw him playing Blitz there, and it was just a revelation to watch him. You know, he was just it was like he it, his wins just came so easily, like just boom, you know, like his position got better and better, boom, resigns, you know.
Yeah,
And he was beating, he was masters were lining up to play him, and I was just watching him and I was going, holy crap, you know.
yeah. You
Plus,
know,
he had this massive afro, which I thought was really badass. Like he had an afro that matched Link from Mod Squad. I mean, that level of afro.
I was
Okay,
more Pete.
you have to be about 80 years old to know that reference. Like,
Reference, yes. I got it right away.
if you're below 80, you won't know who Link from the Mod Squad is. Okay, Google it. Okay, Google Link from the Mod Squad.
You're cracking me up. That's right. That's what you young folks would do. Google it. But I think I grew up I started playing chess when I was in the western part of Massachusetts in the Berkshire
Uh-huh.
County, and it's like 3.5, 4 hour drive to New York City or to Boston. So
Uh-huh.
there weren't any players. But first time I went to New York City, I thought I was a badass until I went to New York City for the first time. I got
Mhm.
my butt kicked, and it was like but I was watching John Fedorowicz play postmodern, and he kept saying box, box. I had no idea what he meant, and of course that's the informant symbol for forced move.
Oh, that's right. That's right. I remember John Fedorowicz saying box, and you'd say it with the accent.
Bronx accent. Yeah.
Like I saw him playing blitz. It was maybe about like in a Canadian Open or in the mid 70s sometimes, but I remember he was playing Walter Brown blitz, or I may have been hallucinating again, but I think he was playing Brown blitz, and he kept saying box. I really liked him. I love Fedorowicz.
He is my best grandmaster friend, and right away, because we met after he because I was from Massachusetts, my chess career. He had at the National Open. He was playing Bill Kelleher. You remember Bill?
Right.
And very strong player, great guy too. But Kelleher was white against John, and he had played a Sicilian, and Kelleher kind of rolled him. And so I am at the bar, and John comes in and sits down one stool away, kind of nice, and so I look at him, and I know he's got kind of a reputation for being ready to fight, and but he's also got a reputation for having a good sense of humor. So I figured this is going to go one way or the other. Either way, it'll make a good story. So I leaned over, hey John, nice opening, and he looks like he's going to punch me, and then he insults me worse. And then I look like, he says, I think you're going to cry. I start laughing, and he starts laughing. And we became best buddies, but we bonded over initial insult. But either way, I thought it was going to be a good story. John punched me out at the National Open. But who says that to a grandmaster? Hey, nice opening, when he gets beat.
No, I wouldn't have the nerve. Also, I was a little bit hurt because I realized that my nerd credentials are actually higher than yours, because when you said go into a bar, no way. I'm not going to lose one brain cell with alcohol. I renounce alcohol. Like, the last time I had a drink was 1998.
No kidding.
Yeah, and it's not because I was an alcoholic and gave up. No, I have so few brain cells. I cannot afford even the loss of. I can't afford to drink a near beer. That 1% alcohol, I'm worried it'll take out one brain cell, and that'll be the one where I miss the combination.
Yeah.
So,
well, my last drink was in 2016, and it was because of age. I just can't do it anymore. And it was like, but it was kind of how I bonded with guys like Nick DeFermian and Larry.
Yeah, alcohol is a strange thing because you it's a bonding thing, but I saw so many lives have been ruined with it. It's also, so like you have a couple of drinks, you have an accident and kill someone or yourself, or both. So or you say something to someone that something mean that you wouldn't have said, but you're not drunk. You've only had like 2 or 3 beers, let's say, but it's just that little push you needed, to say something mean. I like the idea of being completely in charge of my actions. I don't want the alcohol being in charge of my actions. But of course, this pushes my nerdhood levels so much past yours.
Yes, because I agree because that was what helped me get a date. I did get a date.
Oh shit! I mean, no, sorry. Once again, 6-year-old. I was jealous. I was jealous.
In high school. It was in college, but
6-year-old watching. I cursed again, and I was jealous of Jim when he said he got a date. I didn't get a date. It was a mistake. He can bleep it out later.
Yeah,
sorry.
Yeah. It's okay. Post-production is what it's called. But I think that the idea of needing a foreign substance to get up the courage to ask a girl out, was the first sign that I really didn't have my act together. because
Well,
I
it's
should have
not
given
about
in
an
to my
act
nerd.
together. It's a natural shyness. Some people are naturally shy. Like I've been on one date with one person in my life. That's my wife. That's it. That's my one and only date. Like Nancy, and that's it. Married her. I don't ever have to ask another woman out. Thank God. Okay, I'm clean now.
Oh, that's an amazing story. I don't know if I've ever met anyone who was one and done like that.
One date. Okay, can you beat that for nerdhood? One date. Okay. And I think she asked me. I would never have the guts. I don't think I
Oh,
had the guts,
oh God. Maybe I'm an FM in nerddom, but you're definitely GM.
No, there's nobody in my league. Okay. Never taken a drug in my life that's a not non-prescription. Never, like, not one puff of marijuana even. Like
Wait a
I
minute.
I've never
Wait,
had a drink.
wait a minute. You were
Maybe
born
I should. Maybe I should. Well, that's not true. I have this awesome neighbor. We just moved, and I play ball. I play fetch with my dog Amadeus at 11, and him
in.
and his wife smoke joints next door. So I time it perfectly so that it wafts over, and I go, Hey, this
My
is
wife
a
can't stand the
pleasant.
smell of it. So, like that's not something that's an option for me. But I know that when we walk by in San Francisco and she gets a whiff of it, she makes this horrible
Oh, she doesn't
like,
like the smell? I love the smell.
I know.
I absolutely love the smell.
But we probably 6-year-olds. Yeah, it's definitely time for you to change the channel. But I think that this is an interesting thing because you grew up in an era that was like kind of post hippie, post
Every
summer of
kid in
love,
my school, people associate the 60s with drugs. The early 70s
70s.
was 10 times worse with
It was
drugs in high schools. It was just
it was
permeated with
unbelievable.
drug users. I never was tempted. I always thought it was dumb. Like, why would you
Plus,
want to
you would see these guys
impair
are bright.
yourself?
They're really bright and they're really full of life. And then you would see them a year later, and they're just
And
burned
they're
out.
just the complete burned out messes. Yeah, yeah. But I mean, people that smoke a joint a day don't
Yeah,
aren't burned out messes. I'm
no.
talking about heroin users, in those days. But I was just never tempted with anything. I was offered all the time. It's like, no, thanks. Like, and I never got peer pressure since I had no friends. I was so nerdy. I was too nerdy for the nerds, and so I was ostracized by the nerds, and so.
Yeah, they don't want to be guilty by association with you.
Well, you may or may not know this, but I'm on the spectrum, like autism spectrum. So even even the nerds like thought this guy is really weird, like in high school. And so it was like I was just like adrift alone, walking the
Yeah.
halls.
Well,
You know?
we're all on the spectrum, but I hear you that is a definite problem for socialization skills. They don't come
It
easy.
was major because you're terrified of meeting new people. I still am. I still
Yeah.
am. When I get a new student, it's a terrifying thing, if I accept the student. I solve the problem quite easily by never taking students that I don't know previously, or I take them if I really like them, like if I sense that I like them. But if I get any sense that, that I don't super like this person, oh, sorry, no can do, you know.
I bet we've played in tournaments and just walked past each other without noticing each other.
We probably did, but you lived in the East Coast, didn't you?
Well, and since
Well, so
'79,
did
I've
I
been in
actually. So
California.
did I. But
Yeah,
where did you live?
'79, I've been in California. So
Okay, well, that's when I moved, 78.
yeah,
So, wow,
another parallel.
you copied me. You
Yes,
copied
I was a year behind you and everything.
you got yourself out. Cyrus has moved to California. He's not going to get one up on me. I'm going
I'm
there
moving
too.
to California. It was because my best friend was going to Stanford and he offered me a free ride.
Oh, nice.
That's
That's a
the
good
only reason.
reason.
But once I got here, I stayed. because it
My
was.
father just randomly packed up and moved. He had two really successful businesses, one in India, and they sold everything, just packed up and moved to Canada, like moved us all to Canada. And then he had a really successful business in Montreal, and then he just did the same damn thing and came here and started another business, and
And here at San Diego now, right?
yeah, in San Diego. And
So for you East Coast people, California is a big state. So if you're in Northern California and
right.
and another guy's in San Diego,
Oh, you'll never see the guy ever. It's like a different country. But the problem with California, it's a beautiful state. I mean, it's a really, and San Diego especially is a beautiful place to live.
yes,
And I'm not whining, but you do have to be an oligarch to live here. Okay, I mean, it's like if you
talk
do,
about Silicon Valley.
if your income is any less than $500 million a year, you can't afford to live here. Okay, because the house prices are. I just saw the newspaper yesterday. I was at the grocery store and I saw the headline. Median house price now in San Diego is close to 800,000.
This is what
Median. I'm talking about the bad areas included, like the crappy areas. Like
yeah.
that's the median price 800 almost.
I live in the heart of Silicon Valley, and in 1995, my wife and I were moving from San Francisco down to Menlo Park, and I thought I thought there was at least one too many zeros at the asking prices.
Yeah, it's insane. I mean,
It just numbed me. I couldn't not
right,
read the
right,
number.
right. I was just talking to Nancy this morning. I said, let's move to Washington State. Nancy, come on, we'll triple our wealth. We sell I own two houses. They're both paid off. Okay.
Yeah.
I sell those or I rent those out for monster rent, right? Compared to other states.
Yeah.
I move to another state, any state that's not California or New York, and
Right.
we're good. But see, all our family is here. All our family is here.
Man, our lives are parallel because that's it. My wife was born in Hollister, California. She's a California girl. All her
Right.
family is here.
Right,
I brought
right.
this subject up because financially it's a slam dunk argument, I think. But she's not going to move.
No, we're doomed to die poor oligarchs in in California. It's sad. It's really sad. We could be oligarchs, like real oligarchs, if we just moved anywhere else. But
I
no,
hope.
no, we have to live in this freaking state where you poor guy. Like if you make 100,000 a year in San Diego, like
How are you going to buy a home?
You're poor, okay?
Yeah, how are you going to buy a home on 100,000 a year?
No, impossible. My son and his I call her my girlfriend-in-law because she's lived with him for like 6 or 7 years.
Yeah,
But my son and my girlfriend-in-law are trying to buy a house. She's a teacher and he works at Sony, makes a really good salary, okay? And joint income, they have a pretty decent income, but they can't afford a house here. Anywhere else they could. Anywhere else they could, but not here. And
I don't know how people get started today in these areas. I don't.
well, I mean, he's going to have to wait till we drop dead and inherit our houses. It's like how it works. But I think there's a massive housing crisis in the U.S. right now, where the prices are absurd.
And it's not just California; it's all over. I have a friend
sorry, go ahead.
I have a friend who's pricing his homes in Nashville, and they're out of control because a lot of
are they
out there. But there's a lot of like homelessness is exponentially increased.
It's crazy because you have to have an incredible income just to live here. Why are they here? I mean, why don't you move to a state where you're not homeless? I don't get it. Maybe weather, I don't know. But
it's always sunny in California. That's what they hear when they come here.
Yeah. But see, the house we own that we're renting out right now, we're not getting that much because we're helping out this refugee family, so we're cutting the rent, like they're Syrian refugees. But the Zillow, it's a 3-bedroom. The Zillow suggested rental is $3,200 a month. Who the hell has that much to pay for your rent? That's no equity in the house when you pay $3,200 a month, right? That's crazy,
Yeah.
you know. And
It's just burning it, and
yeah,
does you no good in the future. You can't save if
yeah.
you're paying that much in rent, so I
Damn it,
don't know
we
how.
need to talk our wives. We need to tell our wives we want to be oligarchs. Women, we want to be oligarchs. Stop placing me in poverty here.
Yeah, it's like I always say living in Silicon Valley, I don't feel rich. I don't
No,
feel
we're not rich. We're
yeah,
not
we're
rich
not.
because we live in a place where like a burger is $7,
Yeah,
right? So
yeah.
you're not rich. It's
The
just like
cost
if
of
you move
living
somewhere
here is
else, you're
enormous.
you're you're very comfortable if you move anywhere else,
Yeah.
okay? But here, forget it. So
Yeah. And I just sorry that we got onto what to me is a much more fascinating topic than your latest book. But tell me a little bit more about your latest book sounds fascinating to me. So I didn't mean to give you a left-handed compliment there. But
I was wondering, like,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
but your
What a nice
book,
thing to say.
your
But
book isn't that interesting. So I'm really glad we veered away from
yeah.
your book, which isn't
Okay,
interesting.
enough about your dumb book, Cyrus. I wanted to get back to you told me a little bit. That's my dog. It's
Oh,
giving me a
let's
little love
hello.
here. She's lonely. She's actually my brother-in-law's dog. I'm just taking
Right.
care
You
of her.
told me. Yeah.
But I think that what I wanted to get you told us a little bit about you wanted to study his games because you're not that type of player and it's such a stretch for you to become
Well,
like
it's
that.
opposites attract. It's
Yes.
opposites attract. My wife is a non-nerd. Okay, she's completely functional. She knows how to pay bills. She knows how to,
No.
I'm so abstract that if my wife left me, I would just sort of sit here on the bed and write books until I died of starvation or thirst. I'm so
Oh,
non-functional. Like
your
you
wife
have to
would have
tell me
someone
when to
deliver you
eat. You have
meals.
to tell me, like I just the house would be. I wouldn't pay taxes. The house would be taken away. Like I'd just be sitting here. I'm so abstract that I can't do anything except do chess and teach and write books. That's all I can
If
do in
someone
life.
delivers a meal to my door, I wait until they go away before I open the door and take the meal.
Oh, excellent, excellent. I like that. But anyway, I'm so abstract that I can't function in life, and my wife is just totally. Nancy is like completely functional. Like without her, I'd be done for.
My wife has friends, it's like, the people that drop
I
over.
I have way
What?
more friends than her because of chess. With chess,
Yeah.
everybody has like loads of friends, but
Yes. Yes.
non-chess friends, no. Okay, like
I
forget
got
it.
one. He's a professor at Stanford, and we go to the Stanford women's basketball games together. And so and he doesn't like chess, but he's a brainiac in math. So it's like,
Hmm. Hmm.
we can talk to each other. But all I meant was that I love talking about all of the topics that we were talking about so much, and they're so important to our way. But there's very little that we can do about them. So what we want to get back to things that we can do something about, and that's chess, and that's your book, and not only this latest book, but Cyrus, how many books have you written?
Well, it's I miscounted, by the way. I'd written fewer books than I thought, but
Yeah.
it's 50 now, and I thought I was at 52. But I have 3 about to come out, actually 4 about to come out, like 3 with Karsten Hansen. I'm going to start writing
Oh,
books with him.
shout
Yeah.
out to him.
Yeah, he's just a great guy. I really like working with him,
And he can get all those tactical positions for you. He's
Yeah, he
amazing
can
at that.
cover it. No, unfortunately, he plays just like me. We're hopeless. Don't buy our books, okay, if you want to learn tactics. No, I shouldn't be saying that.
Yeah,
Please ignore my last statement,
he
okay?
finds a lot of tactics. I've seen him post tactics, and it's like,
Yeah, I
wow,
post tactics every day. I mean, because my
that's true too.
computer,
You do
yeah, I
on
mean, I
Facebook
post like studies, end game
studies.
studies,
Yes,
and mates in two and
I like the
combinations.
ones that I can solve. Those are my
Yeah,
favorite.
unfortunately, those are very tough. When you do endgame studies, they're very, very tough. I mean, the endgame studies, I find that they're valuable even if you don't solve them, because you just see, when you look up the answer, just try and look up the answer, you see a pattern that you've never maybe seen before, or just it's so outrageous that, like, you go, oh my God, you got to be joking me,
Yeah,
and you increase your the reservoir of the
this is
internal database, you
chess
know
is a game of pattern recognition, and
yeah.
and that and this is like, okay, we're talking tactics. We're talking about one of the greatest attackers of all time,
Hmm.
but Capablanca told you to study the end games, and it was like, the end games teach you patterns of how the pieces are powers of the pieces. I learned because the
The end
bishop
game is
e9
good. It's good
doesn't work against.
advice, but people don't follow it.
No, not at all. The end game books don't sell. The opening books do.
Right. Only opening books sell, and tactics books, and but
Yeah,
player books sell, thank God. But
yeah.
but I remember Spassky was once asked, like, Capablanca said that you should study the end game first, and he said, good advice. And then they said, did you do that when you first started chess? He said, of course not.
Yeah. But I made a
Spassky was
serious.
the coolest guy I ever interviewed. Like, I interviewed him when I worked for Copley News Service for I had a syndicated chess column in the 80s and early 90s. And then I threw a massive tantrum. I'm the only guy ever to like throw away a syndicated column, because what happened was, in the early 90s, newspapers were all collapsing because of the internet, right?
Right.
And they were blackmailing everyone, and the San Diego Union and Tribune were merging, the same company, but
Yeah,
evening paper and morning paper merged, and they were basically blackmailing everyone, where they were saying, oh, gee, we got to cut your salary 30%, or plus they had a lot of layoffs when they,
sure.
the ones they didn't want to lay off, they wanted to cut the salary, and they were paying me crap for
Yeah,
decent, but crap compared to what they were making on my syndicated column.
you've really
It wasn't,
cleaned up your language, Cyrus, during this
pardon
interview.
me.
You've cleaned up
Oh
your
yeah, yeah. Okay,
language.
that's number three. I'm a
No,
6-year-old who's watching this. First of all, why are you
are you
watching this? Why
watching
aren't
this?
you watching Sesame Street? Wouldn't you be better off there? Secondly, sorry about that. Crap.
Crap's
Crap
okay.
is a synonym for
Yeah,
darn. It's I meant darn, okay,
darn.
not the other thing that's used for crap. Okay.
Gosh darn.
Anyway, anyway, like, they were making a ton of money. I was in 300 newspapers, and they said, "Oh, we're going to have to cut your salary for that in half." And I said, "No, you're not." And they said, "You don't have a choice." And I said, "Oh, I do have a choice,
Yeah.
But this was a self-destructive thing, probably, but it would have driven me nuts to be cheated like that. And so it would have just gnawed on me. I actually said okay, and then a week later I said, when I said okay, I take that back.
Uh-huh.
I said no. So I lost the syndicated column because I refused to cut the salary, because I knew they were making a ton of money,
Well,
for it.
that was the thing, is that, this is the classic capitalism issue. It's the people at the top are making millions, and the people at the bottom billions. Sorry, the millions is out of date, but
I
yeah,
do like. I caught the little finger, the
yeah,
Doctor Evil thing. I liked it. In case anyone missed it, I totally caught the Doctor Evil reference. But you did it all wrong. You should have said they make $1 million. You didn't do it right. He didn't say. He never said millions plural.
That's right. we've obviously watched the same movies too. But I'm running out of time, Cyrus. But so we told the kids what to do, and they won't do it. We know it. And it's important to study endings, but you're going to focus on openings. Okay, everybody does. But read this book by this guy, the greatest attacker of all time.
I think that it's not just this guy, and any player book is very valuable because first of all, you need to see how great player. You need to see the evolution of chess. It's just a weird thing to me that the young players, you say Larson, they go who, or Korchnoi who, Fischer who, really Fischer who, like it's like anyway, like they just don't have any sense of chess history, and to me, it's like you're going in for your first piano lesson and the teacher wants to teach you the scales and you go, no, I demand to play Chopin's Piano Concerto No. 1 in something minor, like, no, you're not ready for that yet, like, okay, then the Tchaikovsky, okay, I'm going with the Tchaikovsky. No, you're not ready for that either. Just play the freaking scales,
Well, that Fischer guy that nobody's heard of nowadays, that Fischer guy liked to study Steinitz games because Steinitz gave him ideas that he didn't have by himself. And
Steinitz is the most underrated world champion of all time. And I think he is actually a candidate for greatest player of all time, believe it or not. And nobody will agree with me. I saw you nodding your head. Do I have one guy agree with me?
Well, no, wow. I think he's totally underestimated and not.
He's grossly underestimated.
Ever in that discussion of greatest player of all time. But he does make my top 10 list in Chess for Dummies.
Easily top 10. Easily. Hey, I like that little plug you get. that was nice, Jim.
Thank you.
I'm starting my own show and well, tell me about your book on Capablanca.
Red-handed, busted.
I thought that was very clever, by the way. But anyway, it gives you a sense of place and a sense of evolution of one idea leading to the other. They're like little automatons now. I mean, they're incredibly good at tactics, incredibly good calculators, the prodigies right now. But I think they could be even stronger, is what I'm saying. Like Carlsen is the one guy in his age group that has actually done a deep study of the old players, the old guard. Why is he number one? It probably isn't that, but maybe it contributed a little bit. I think it gives you a greater sense of whole for chess.
Yeah.
There's just something is missing when people don't study chess history.
I don't like the prodigies either. Sorry, I think they're
well. You don't like the prodigies because you were never one like I was with Sarah, rated 1750 at age 15. Yes, you're jealous because of my towering rating.
Yeah, I got the credentials to prove it. Just look me up on the U.S. chess rating site.
50 points away from A player at age 15. 50 points away.
I made A player by the time I was a junior in high school. So,
Oh, damn it! Then you're a greater prodigy than me. Damn it!
But you know what? I didn't make a jump in playing strength until I went to UMass my freshman year, first semester freshman year. I got to play a lot with Danny Kopek.
Oh my God, Kopek lived in San Diego. He was a good friend,
And he taught me so much about the game. And we would, he would give 5-minute to 2-minute odds to everybody, and he and I would play 2-minute chess. So he gave me 5-minute odds, and then he said no. Then he gave me 3-minute odds, and he said no. So we played even up. Of course, he won most of them, but I learned so much from him, and I went from about 2,000 to 2,200 just by being exposed to him for one semester.
Yeah, he lived in San Diego in the early '80s, and we used to hang out. I used to go to his.
This was 1975. Yeah, so
Yeah,
you knew him.
it was right around then, but he was a strange guy. You know, he was an IM. I could beat him consistently, by the way, in blitz. Like
Yeah,
he could only score like 1 out of 5 against me, right? But he would say things like, you know, if I had a shot at Karpov, I would be world champion. And I'd go, huh, okay. And then inside my head, I'd be going, huh? Like, what the hell? If this IM thinks he could take down world champion Karpov? Like, you know, Kasparov too, huh? And I just outwardly I'd nod, you know, like,
well, he was a really good thinker and teacher, but it doesn't make you the competitive player that he might have thought he was.
yeah,
But he did go 8-0 in the Pan Pacific, not the intercollegiate tournament that we played in at Ohio State in 1975. I was the only other player on our team to make a positive score, but he went 8-0 on board one.
Right. I mean,
So
if you're going to be in,
he wasn't a coffee house player. He was.
No. I remember I first met him at a Canadian Open in the 70s, in the late or maybe mid 70s, and I remember he was playing Kevin Spraggett, and at the time Danny was like rated around 2250 or something. Kevin Spraggett was a strong IM, about to be GM, you know, about to be a strong GM, you know, and I remember, like, you know, Kopech is black, you know, and or at least in my foggy memory, he's black. Maybe he was white. I don't know. Anyway, he offered like Spraggett a draw, like right out of the opening, and Spraggett like looked at him like, I'm the IM. I outrate you by, you know, 250, 300 rating points, and, you know, like, you're offering me a draw and I'm white. No. A few moves later, draw, you know, like, what the hell? You know, like, and I remember Spraggett, Kevin, like, told me, like, this guy's nuts, you know, like, he keeps offering me draws that he thinks that we're like on an even plane, and Spraggett beat him, you know. I mean, but Danny had that thing where he just he had this delusion where he was a world-class player, but he was an IM. Like, I mean, you know. Okay.
Well, you know, all of us are characters, and so, you know, we all have our quirks, and Danny had his strengths and weaknesses, as we all do. But you know what, I'm just so pleased that we could spend this entire hour talking about.
Thank you so much for having me, Jim. I appreciate it.
Talking about your book and nothing else, you know.
Yeah, you wasted time talking about my life when you could have been talking about this excellent book.
There you go. The greatest attacker in chess. The enigmatic. What's his name?
Wait, let me check.
When you have your own show, you're going to be brilliant.
I am. You will be my first guest, and we will cover your Chess for Dummies. But there may be.
Oh, thank you for mentioning that.
Man, I set you. I should be a straight man for a comedy.
Yes,
I set you up for that. I totally set you up for that.
What was it, Bud Abbott and Lou Costello? Yep. I'm Lou Costello in this thing.
Actually, the greatest. Okay, last thing I will say before I leave: the greatest straight man in comedy history is Bob Newhart. In my opinion.
I love Bob Newhart.
He doesn't have like I remember. Yeah, just totally like where he'd just go, no. And that's all he would say. And it was hilarious the way he'd say it, you know, like stutteringly no or yes.
Yeah. And he played this, not in his show, but a psychiatrist in this little skit. And people would come into his office and he would say, you know, $5. And so they would say what their problem is. And he would say, stop it. That's $5.
$5 to see a psychiatrist? That's a good deal.
$5 or stop it. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I remember Lucy charged 5 cents for psychiatric advice to Charlie Brown. That was a really good deal.
I wonder if kids these days even know about Charlie Brown.
Pardon me?
I wonder if kids these days even know Charlie Brown.
Well, they would if these kids are 80 and above like us.
Cyrus, you're a brilliant guest to have on, and I
Thank
really
you so
appreciate
much, Jim.
you.
It was really fun.
And
Thank you so
we'll
much.
do it again because you got 3 books coming.
Sounds good.
All
Sounds
right.
good.
So I'm going to take you backstage now,
Okay.
and it'll just be on me. So that was episode 56 of Chess Files. The answers are out there. So if you want to, if you have questions, just ask, because people like Cyrus and I have all the answers. So next time that we see each other, you viewing audience out there, hi mom, you're going to be able to meet another guest as fabulous as Cyrus. That's a promise.